Thank you, everybody, for joining us at our D4 panel today. You are welcome at the table. Gaming in 2021. We are going to be talking about some of the amazing things that have been happening in the tabletop gaming industry over the recent past that makes it extra awesome, with a little bit of a focus on how we have grown to be a more inclusive hobby and industry over time. My name is Suzanne Sheldon, and I'm going to be your moderator and host for this discussion. And for those of you who don't know me, I am a podcaster and I work within the industry as well. I'm one of the 4 co-hosts of the Dice Tower podcast. I also stream some games, and I work as a marketing and project manager for a company called Restoration Games, who makes board games in the industry. And I am so excited to have an amazing group of people with me, people that I have known and followed for years that are just wonderful contributors and wonderful people. I'm going to let them introduce themselves. Let's just go around. And why don't we start off with you, Ruel?
All right. Thanks, Suzanne. Folks, my name is Ruel Gaviola, and I'm a content creator in the board game industry. I'm a writer, a podcaster, live streamer. My work can be found all over the interwebs, from Geek and Sundry to Renegade Game Studios to the Good Time Society, where I am currently the co-host of Good Looking Kickstarters with Becca Scott. It's a bi-weekly show on YouTube where we check out all the cool, fun Kickstarter projects that we're excited about. I am also the co-founder and organizer of Tabletop Live Network with the Brothers Murph. We put on a monthly event. It's a live streaming event over on Twitch. It's nothing but board games for 24 hours straight. Suzanne, I'm so happy to be here.
Thank you. And let's go down to Ella.
Hi, I'm Ella. My pronouns are she, her. I'm a content creator, so I create content for the Dice Tower, as well as for my own channel called Ella Loves Boardgames. You can find me anywhere as Ella Loves Boardgames. And I also work in the industry as the marketing and community coordinator for VR Distribution, which is one of the largest distributors in Australia. And I'm super excited to be here. Hi.
And let's swing over to Victoria.
Hi, everyone. My name is Victoria Caña, and I am an indie game designer and co-founder of Quartet Games. We recently, we just shipped out our first game, Gladius. In addition to that, I used to work at Wizards of the Coast as a producer, and now I am a video game producer in the industry. So thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
It's awesome. And I think we just have a really great breadth of experience and exposure in a number of different roles in the industry. And I'm really looking forward to hearing some of your stories. Let's just jump right in. I mean, time's limited, and this is a really great topic that I know is pretty near and dear to all of our hearts. And to kick us off, I just thought I'd ask about your experience in tabletop gaming and kind of an element or a growth or a shift or something that you think is worth highlighting or taking note of that you've been excited to see over the last year, 2 years, 5 years. Anybody, feel free to jump right on in.
Oh, I'll jump right in. I've got something that's really exciting to me, and it's happened within the last year for me personally, and it's the growth and development of Twitch as a platform that a lot of board gamers have been using now. I've followed the Brothers Murph and a couple of other people for years on Twitch, but I never really got into it until the pandemic hit. And this is because, like everyone else, we're trying to stay safe, stay at home. And, I talked to my wife and our daughter one day. It's like, why don't we stream a game? Let's just put our family game night on the internet, right? And it was funny. It was literally me and my smartphone on a tripod with duct tape held up next to our table. And it was on Facebook Live. And we did that for a month straight, 31 days straight. I call that season 1. And we had such a good time with it. And then we decided, let's switch over to Twitch. And on Twitch, we just found this wonderful community. So many different people have been, joining the platform and streaming their board games. And I found it to be not only just a really cool way to connect with people on a personal basis, but, just seeing all these great games being played almost literally like 24/7. I can just jump on Twitch like, oh, here's a game I've never seen played. And the experience is just wonderful because of the chat, right? The chat is so interactive. It's so, a lot of back and forth banter, a lot of great people there. And that's probably my number one thing over this last year, Suzanne, is just seeing the growth of Twitch and seeing, the community there grow. It's wonderful.
I guess connected to that also is that because I speak as a content creator, it's just the amount of women now and POCs, people of color in the industry. Because it used to be like I would watch Dice Tower even before I was a content creator. And really, I knew about Susan, Mandy, and Becca. But beyond that, you didn't see a lot of people. So I'm just really excited by even the new content creators who are doing amazing work. And yeah, I think that we're building a more diverse community and a more intentional one. So I think intentional is important. I find that a lot of the newer creators also, which I think is from people supporting them who were in the industry before, are able to have a voice in the industry and are more confident about speaking about these issues. So I think that's a great thing.
Yeah, they've been there before and can kind of try to help along. Yeah.
Yes.
How about you, Victoria?
Yeah, for me, what I've been really excited about is the different types of games that have been coming out. I remember when I was first interested in board games. There seemed to be like a very clear like buckets of types of board games. There were like Euro games that were, farming usually. And then there were like American games. Oftentimes they were about fighting. And as time went on, those games were really awesome. But as we got more voices in the tabletop industry, more people would start coming up with games with different themes. And actually, like a lot of them are behind Ruel's head, like chai,
Yes.
about getting different ingredients and drinking tea. That's super awesome. There's Tidal Blades. I don't even know what the exact premise of Tidal Blades is, but like that type of art.
Yes.
Seeing like one of those characters in the game and exploring a cool world like that. And Rap Gods, a game about having rap battles with different people. Like those are games that I don't like. All of those games came out after I first got interested in board games, which was around 2012. And so I'm super excited about what's been coming out and what will come out in the future.
Yes.
That's such a great point, Victoria. I love what you said about, all these different games. Like these are games, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, they, who would know? We would never have seen like a game about rappers or a game about tea, right? And I'm so excited that these are coming out. Not only the diversity of the themes themselves, but the creators as well. Omari Akil, what a designer, right? And then we have Dan and Connie Kazmaier. I mean, just the diversity of designers and themes, it's really wonderful to see. And we've said it for the last few years, I still believe we are in a golden age of board games, folks. I mean, the things that are coming out, this is a wonderful time to be a gamer. And I'm so passionate about seeing all these different themes and creators do the work they do. I'm so happy for them. It's so exciting to be part of this industry.
Yeah. And I think sorry, are you gonna say? I think the crossover from RPG is also good because the diversity in RPG is really, really like Banana Chan makes board games and RPGs, and I think that helps a lot. That cross pollination, so the themes and the art and it's just more diverse.
When you think about how game settings and themes are becoming more varied, perhaps, and the makers that are discovering board games or kind of making their voice heard in tabletop games more recently, can you think of anything that stands out in terms of what helps enable that kind of diversification and what we can do as a community to find or discover or promote or support those kinds of projects or those kinds of creators?
That's such a good question, Suzanne. And with that, that's the question. How do we, how can we support each other? And I was thinking about this earlier, actually, and with all the the bad stuff that happens on social media and the problems that, there's problematic platforms. For me personally, I discovered a lot of, the designers, content creators that I look up to on social media, and I've followed them for years. Suzanne, you're one of them, people that I've looked up to for many years. And, those people using their voice, right, to amplify other creators and designers, and especially those in marginalized groups, to be able to amplify their voices it's a huge thing. And again, there's a lot of problems with social media, but if you can filter out a bunch of that noise, there's a lot of great things, a lot of great people to connect with on there.
I'll give an example that actually I woke up to today. I think it's important that there are people with influence and money and power speak out and speak about diversity. For example, Isaac Childress of Cephalofair Games just came out with this update on their Kickstarter that they hired a cultural sensitivity consultant for their game because they wanted to learn from mistakes from the past. I think he specifically talked about a scenario in Gloomhaven where there was children involved and that there was no agency. They're also like learning that just because it's a fantasy setting just does not make it unreal, that there are still things in the system that are imbibed in the game that makes it not welcoming to other players. So I think that's and he got a lot of flack for it. And somebody standing up and saying, I've learned from my mistakes and I'm willing to grow. And now I'm pushing forward with a cultural sensitivity consultant to make my games better. It's such a great thing. And he has one of the #1 games that have been published. So it's a
in
big
the
thing
industry.
for him.
Yeah.
In the industry. I was going to say he's a millionaire. Like he didn't care about, because there were a lot of people who dropped their pledges. And if everything is about money, then that would not have been a thing that he would have been wanted to do. But again, it's not just about money. I'm happy that he's making money, but I'm glad that he's doing this because it does make a difference.
Mm-hmm. Victoria, as a game designer and as a publisher, as an indie publisher, does kind of representation, did that factor at all into your project or into how you approached it or how you thought about your audience? And if so, can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Oh, yeah, sure. So a huge part of why my co-designer and I went down the self-publishing route instead of, signing our game to a publisher is because he and we're both people of color. I'm also a woman, and I noticed, I cannot name, back then I could not name any women who were game designers. I could not really recall people of color in games. I think somebody did a report and they found that there are more animals and aliens on board game covers than like women and people of color. And it's just like, wow. And so because of that, we decided to do the art direction for our game ourselves. And so our game is called Gladius, the game where you play as Roman spectators who are betting on and rigging the gladiatorial games. And typically the representation of Roman games, board games specifically, you'll see like super buff white dudes in Rome, like really light hair and everything like that. And what's interesting about that is that ancient Rome was actually known for its diversity because it was a huge empire that, spanned all throughout Europe. And
all roads lead to Rome.
Yeah, all roads lead to Rome. Part of North Africa. And so in our game, we have a lot of different gladiators, and we decided to have a diversity of characters. So you have characters who have all sorts of different skin colors, body types, abilities, and that was something that has really resonated with players, and it has also surprised some players and has taught them to be more accepting of it. I remember when we were playing the game, there were these guys who were playing and they were flipping over all the gladiators, and they're like, whoa, every single gladiator is a woman. And it was a moment for them, but it was an exciting moment because now they've seen that and that they can be more accepting of that. So I would say that it's been really fulfilling being a publisher and designer and getting to sort of like set the tone of what the future can be, because I think like the more people that do it, the more it shows other publishers that this is important and this is what players want. And so that's why we're able to have more diversity in the games that we see today.
And what is the response like in the broader thing? Like you went to Kickstarter, right?
Yeah, we went to Kickstarter.
And really successfully funded.
Yeah, it raised about $100,000.
And I think that kind of demonstration of an interest and a hunger for games that are a little different, right? And maybe inject a little bit of your personal self into the presentation that resonates with an audience that's out there, that feels really powerful. And I've been playing games for over 25 years, and just anecdotally, I didn't see a game like that 25 years ago. And I think it's incredibly powerful that today we can sit down and be talking on a panel with an independent designer and publisher who was really mindful and thoughtful about that from the project's inception. And I think that's a great example of how games have evolved and kind of are meeting the audience that's there and offering more options. Along those lines, I mean, let's talk about a couple of games that maybe, or publishers or some entities within the industry that maybe let's praise. Let's talk about some of the good work. I mean, along with things like Victoria's project with Gladius, I mean, there are other both like larger, but also a lot of indies out there that I think are probably worth highlighting out there. And I don't know if, we've talked about Rap Gods a little bit already. And of course, Isaac Childress's Frosthaven approach and kind of mindfulness around that. Any other projects or games or publishers that you'd love to highlight and talk about?
I think one.
Sorry.
Oh, okay.
No, go for it.
I was gonna shout out Rose Gauntlet. They, right when they started, Isaac and Lindsay, right from the get-go, they had the mission statement that really, they were talking about what they wanted to do and the reasons why they were doing it. And it was an amazing mission statement. And I think it really resonated with a lot of us in the industry. Here's a company that right from the get-go is talking about inclusion, diversity, and, in my opinion, just doing things the right way, doing things, that we want to see. And it was inspiring to me to see that. And, shout out to Rose Gauntlet. They just started this company. It's and personally, I think they're going to do some really, really great things moving forward. I'm so excited for them.
I was just going to say I'm pretty lucky because Banana Chan sought me out and invited a lot of actually Asians in a group, and we're in a group chat. And every time we would talk to each other about like just helping each other out find projects or chat about things that we might discuss, like salary that is not very transparent in the industry and things like that. So I found, so Banana has made, like, actually made a video for her for Battle of the Boy Band. So she made it in Clio. So that's Game and a Curry. They also made with Sin, they made an RPG. So I might not pronounce it correctly, but Jiangxi. So that's that. But also I seek out all their other projects that they work on, like Scooby-Doo Coded Chronicles, Betrayal in the House of, I see I'm gonna get it wrong.
I do the same thing all the time. Yeah, I just call it Betrayal
in the House
now.
of the Haunted Mansion. Yeah, the Scooby-Doo Betrayal. Yep. And so it's great that not only are they making games that are about their cultures, but also just games in general, that they're sought out as designers. Sometimes you always question, like, am I being invited because I fit the demographic? Like, oh, now they're diverse because I have this, but I also want to be invited because of my talents or because of what I can bring to the table, not just because of my color or if I'm a woman. So it's great to just be on a project because, oh, I'm good, so therefore I'm on it, or they're good, so therefore they're on it. So that's a great thing to see. So
do you feel like there are barriers to, do you feel like there's barriers for marginalized populations within the industry in kind of making an inroads or feeling like they're represented within the industry? And if so, how do you have tips or advice for folks that, I think Ruel, you kind of talked about social media and the power of social media earlier, but as people who work in a various capacities within the industry, do you have kind of tips or hints on for folks that might be trying to break in or who want access to games but maybe don't know how to approach it or where to start?
Yeah, that's again another fantastic question. There, how do we do that? And I look at it like this, Suzanne. I think it's, you know, for those of us who are in the industry, I've always, tried to make myself available to others, who are coming up or who are new to that. I'm always happy to, if someone DMs me or whatever, I'm happy to, share what knowledge that I have, or, if I feel like you know, want, or if someone just asked me something, I'm happy to answer questions and hopefully steer them the right way. And I feel like that alone sort of gets that sort of like word of mouth. Hey, if you're stuck on a problem, reach out to Ruel or Suzanne or whoever, and if we can, we'll help you out. And I think it's really important for those of us who are here to sort of like give that the helping hand, right? Because when I first started doing this stuff, I had no idea what I was doing, but thankfully I had some mentors, right? So I always look at it like I want to pass that on. I had mentors that helped me get into the industry, helped me, whether it's like through editors or whatever, and they gave me opportunities. So anything that I can do to get someone else an opportunity, I'm always happy to do that. So I think it's just this whole like help each other out. And that's what it comes down to for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that the one of the great ways to get into the industry is we have so many programs that exist now to help marginalized people break in. Like, for example, a huge part of why I'm in games is because I won the Indie Game Developer Network Metatopia Scholarship. And so Metatopia is this convention that's focused on indie game designers. So that way you can test your prototypes no matter what stage it's in and get feedback on it. And if I had not won that and I had gotten to go to that convention, playtest my game, get really good feedback, have access to mentors and like network with other publishers, and also meet other designers who were further ahead in the process than me, then I would have never been able to figure out how to kickstart my own game. It was only because of the support of the community that I was able to do that. And it was also because of that community that I was able to, well, it expanded my interest in board games. Like I played a number of board games. I had like 10 or so, and I thought that was pretty good. And then now I have all these board games because all those people, it was so fun to play games with them. But yeah, there's like the Indie Game Developers Network Scholarship. There's like the Tabletop Mentorship Program.
I was going to mention that. I'm glad you brought it up.
Yeah. And there are a lot more. Like I think if you like Cardboard Edison, they have a contest there. Like contests can be a great way to break in as well, because you'll get feedback from judges in the industry and it gives you more visibility. So those are some examples.
Yeah, those are all great examples. And again, even if you don't win those, right, just going through the process and also networking and meeting people, I think that's a tremendous value, for whether you're a designer, creator, or whatever, making those contacts. And, you may not win this one, but further in the future, maybe there's something, that you can, look into and work with other people. It's a fantastic way to, get a step up.
Yeah. And I guess I speak to myself as because I'm in the digital space. And one of the positive things about that everything is digital now is because you can actually find your spaces to go to. Say if you're a content creator, there's a big Facebook group called Board Game Reviewers and Media. You can actually get in touch with other content creators and publishers there, so you can get leads as to what projects you can get. There's also like a big Facebook group for Asian creators and creatives, and so I also got a lot of contacts there, like just discovering publishers from Singapore and Taiwan and reaching out to them that I want to cover their games. So I guess reach out to people, find your space and find your people. Yeah. that was a big thing for me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
finding your
just going along those lines, Ella, as well, sometimes, those of us who've been in the industry for a while, we'll find ourselves like, I mean, we're all busy and sometimes we don't have the time to,
Reach
work
out.
on certain projects. Pass those
Yeah.
along, remember those people that had reached out to you before. It's like, oh yeah, I know so and so, they would be perfect for this project. I may not be the right fit, but
Absolutely.
absolutely, yeah, share it with others.
I love that.
I always mention Stella because Stella, I'm on top of everything. I'm in Australia, so it's very hard. And Stella and I will always share games. Like, do you have this game? I'm covering it. Do you want it? So that also helps a lot, because then also it makes it cheaper for publishers to give games to you, because then you're in a group. And
Yep.
so there are different more creative ways to get to things, even if they're not accessible to you.
Yeah, sharing resources, right? I mean, not only contexts, but like you were saying, actual games, and it's like we can't all afford or we can't all get on the list for the
Yep.
latest hotness. But if you have, your peer group that's, hopefully local to you, it's like, hey, it's getting a little safer to meet up now. So you can meet up and exchange games and you can all create the content or whatever that you're working on. And, like you said, I think it benefits everyone, publishers too, because they don't have to send out 20,000 games or whatever.
20,000.
Oh, I don't. That's ballpark figure. I don't know.
Ballpark. Yeah, pretty close.
Ella, you mentioned something that I wanted to kind of spin off on. And I know in my role, I talk to a lot of publishers in the industry, and some of these people have been in the industry for a long, long time, and they're established, and perhaps they don't have as much experience with, they have a desire, but maybe not a knowledge base, or aren't sure about how to go about helping make the industry more inclusive and more diverse and safer. And they want to do it. Like, for example, like Isaac's move on Frosthaven. And I get asked a
Yeah.
lot by publishers or established industry folks, like, how do we go about this? We want to do it. We want to be part of the solution, but we're not sure. Like, we don't want to do the wrong thing, but help us. And what about some advice that maybe you could give those folks as well? I mean, we've talked about folks who are newer and just discovering, but what about the people that are there that want to be part of making gaming more awesome? What can we talk to them about?
I guess from what I've seen, if you don't, from my experience, so if I don't know about something, then I'm surely there's somebody who is an expert on it, and there are now cultural sensitivity consultants that you can talk to and learn from and hire. Please pay them, because that's a big thing. Like reaching beyond your, I think, yeah, pushing beyond your comfort zone and realizing that, okay, I have a blind spot. And how can I get rid of that blind spot? Then these are the resources that I have. I'm sure Victoria has a big experience of that, because they're a publisher. So.
Oh, yeah. So what I would say is the first thing is the most important thing is that you're open to it and that you're willing to learn. There are no right answers. It's when you're entering this space, you have to know that it's like, this is a gray area, but this is something that's important and meaningful to people. And it's okay if you mess up, as long as you're constantly learning and trying to do better, right? Like, for example, while working on Gladius, there were lots of learnings that I had to do while art directing with my co-designer for different cards. Like, for example, we have Black women in our game, and we weren't sure how to get our artist, who is Chinese, to be able to do that type of hair, because art is very Eurocentric. Like when they teach artists, usually you're creating white people, because those are the majority of people that you'll see that you've historically seen in games. And so we actually had to find colleagues of ours who were Black women to give feedback on the art, so that way we could move it in the right direction. And the artist was a little bit frustrated in the beginning, but she was happy to work with us because she wanted to make sure that we had the right representation. But going back to the original question, there are a lot of resources out there to find cultural consultants if you don't know what to do. So, for example, James Mendez-Hodes, he was the cultural consultant on Frosthaven, and he also worked with me on various projects at Wizards of the Coast. And He works for a lot of tabletop projects. He is a great person to reach out to. On top of that, there are lots of great resources. Like if you look up like diversity representation in board games, there's a lot of content out there. Like this video, this is going to be out there. There are more at other conferences. Like for example, I was on a panel at PAX Unplugged, the very first one. It was a panel called Designing Games with Asian Settings and Themes, where we went into a deep dive about how to make games with Asian settings and themes. So there's a lot of content out there if you're just willing to Google it. You can find a cultural consultant if you want more help. So that's what I would say.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Just circling back to what Isaac had said, when with this whole Frosthaven thing. I mean, it was such an what he did was amazing, right? I mean, here he is, one of the biggest games on BGG, right? If not the biggest, and it's this huge Kickstarter. But he was willing to do something that was uncomfortable, right? And and it's not easy. He could have, he's right. I know he's lost pledges. That's not going to feel good, right? But he's doing it because it's the right thing to do. And I've got to get, I give him the, that's like the utmost respect to be able to push forward in this uncomfortable zone. I mean, it's never easy, right? But kudos to Isaac and people like him who are doing that, doing the right thing, reaching out. It's like, hey, this isn't easy for me, but I'm going to learn. And like Victoria was saying, as long as you're learning, yeah, you're going to stumble. We're all going to fail. And this is not, there are no right answers, right? It's a very gray area topic, but as long as publishers and companies who are entrenched in the industry, they really need to take that first step forward and say, you know what, we are going to make some mistakes, but we're going to do it because it's the right thing to do. And hopefully that they can see that, this is going to benefit them and everyone in the long run.
Seriously benefiting. You're because I always think like, if you just think about profit, you're reaching out beyond white men, and then you're going to have a bigger market to sell to. You're going to make more money on top of being like doing the right thing. It's actually doing the right thing is profitable, is what I want to say. They always think that doing that will actually get them canceled or lose them money because they're going against their against core audience. But always think about it as growing your audience, and it will be profitable to do good. Is what I want to say.
Yeah, I mean, it's really seriously, bottom line, like, don't you want more people playing your games, like buying your games? Of course, so it really, it's bottom line, more people, more games, companies are going to sell more.
Yep.
I'm always struck by some emails that I get. I'm really lucky that through the Dice Tower, I get to meet so many different people who are just players who just love games, and they're not out there cranking out content or trying to even design their own game. They just want to play games and have fun. And the emails I get from people like that are often my favorite ones. And I remember an email from a father who wrote a note to Mandy and I, and he was just telling an anecdote about how he had two sons and a daughter, and he loved playing games with them. But he found that his daughter just, she'd dabble, but she wasn't really into it. And it sounded like he was being very supportive and very welcoming and trying to, bring his daughter into the gaming just as much as his sons. But apparently he was listening to the podcast where he heard Mandy and I talking about games, and she had a moment where she's like, are those girls talking about games? And he said, yeah, they are. And he told them about the show. And apparently that helped excite her, that she maybe realized that because in her family, only the boys play games. She just didn't see that girls could play games in that kind of sphere, and understanding, oh wait, no, there are other girls, that meant something to her personally. And he said that she absolutely was kind of inspired by that moment. And that's not to humble brag or anything like that, but I think that when we're talking about publishers and the power that they have to welcome new gamers into the hobby and to inspire people to love games, because you never know what's going to resonate. I know so many people are inspired by chai. People are introducing it to parents that normally wouldn't play games with them because it feels relatable or interesting, and just something unique to them that they want to touch and get involved in, as opposed to perhaps, a more traditional game like Risk or Monopoly or things like that that they may be
Mm.
used to. And so when we're talking, your thoughts about being open to feedback and taking advantage of resources and talking to people perhaps outside of their sphere of what the status quo of what they're used to doing,
Mm.
and kind of the mutual benefit that that brings to them as a business entity, but also to the community at large. I think that's a really powerful combo, and something that I will say, I think I have seen grow in the last even just 2 years compared to 2 or 3 years ago, which I think is really
Mm.
exciting to see.
You know what? Just along those lines, Suzanne, it's really neat. For me, I'm still new to it in the last year or so, but just the amount of different discords that have popped up, whether it's from content creators, publishers, designers, whoever, but these are little communities that are amazing. I'm in a few of them, and just to see, the support that people give each other within these discords. And you know, the one that I'm mainly involved with is for the Tabletop Live Network. And we have a group of creators there that, we're all helping each other improve, our content. And I think it's a really neat thing. Along with that, it's just building this little community, and like people are collaborating. And I see this not just in our Discord, but in other Discords too, where again, because of the pandemic, we all can't get together, but there are these little communities that are forming. And I can see this like, maybe 6 months, a year from now, when we can again meet up in person, all of these communities we're going to start coming together. And that's a very powerful thing, I think, is using the technology that we have now to foster these communities and relationships. So it's another thing that I'm really excited about it to see grow.
Yeah, if you were to ask me this question about what's impacted the industry so much a number of years ago, I would have said the internet. When I started playing
Mm.
games, the internet didn't exist this way, And my ability to connect with people like you facilitated through the internet, right? We all only know each other
Mm.
through the internet. It's not like
Right.
we
Yeah.
are neighbors and we bumped into each other at the local game store.
Yeah.
That's been an incredibly powerful tool as more and more tools develop and platforms develop for people to connect. That's pretty amazing. And
Yeah.
in some ways, it helps level the playing field in terms of maybe access and education and awareness, I think, a little bit, which is also pretty cool.
Mm.
Yeah, definitely. Like part of how I was able to figure out, well, it's like what games are good, like what conventions are out there, how to design a game, how to kickstart a game, was because of the internet and all of the resources that are out there, many of which were communities, like Ruel mentioned. So I can't remember like what the groups I was in were called. But there's like a tabletop Kickstarter group where you can
Mm.
learn from other people. If you have a question about anything, you could just ask and people will respond. It's amazing. It's like, I can't believe that they're spending time to go answer other people's questions. But after now that I've ran a Kickstarter for a game, I actually help other people out too. Cause I'm like, oh, I remember that pain. I want to help you so that way you can make a game and not have to go through this pain that I went through as well. But I also wanted to say something about like what you said, Suzanne, where you got that email from that father who said that he was trying to get his daughter into games, and then when she saw the podcast that you're or the show that you're in with Mandy, she got really excited. That's part of what inspired me to get into games. Like when I saw other women in games, like you, Ella, and then also designers like Carla Kopp, who owns Weird Giraffe
Mm.
Games, it made me think like, wait a minute, she's here. That means I can be here. If at least one of them is
Absolutely.
there, then I can be here too. And then like the more of us that exist, like the more like other girls can see like, wait a minute, there are all these people here. There's no reason that I can't be in games. And even more recently, the Queen's Gambit came out. So chess is a board game, and I thought it was an awesome show because chess is a competitive game, and it had a star who was just like a chess prodigy. And hopefully that gave a lot of women the pump up to realize like, wait, yeah, I could be like a super awesome board game player. And I don't have to feel nervous or pretend I don't know. I don't have to like back down my skills because like I'm smart. I could play these games. I can like crush all these other people.
I see how it is with you.
Yeah, I
I know it's games. We all love games for so many different reasons, but a lot of us have a very competitive streak
know.
for sure. And that's awesome.
Yeah, maybe it's because like I remember one of the first board game meetups that I ever went to was like a Catan meetup, and
Wow.
all these men assumed that I didn't know how to play. So they were trying to teach me. They're like, oh, these are the rules and everything like that. Like, we'll give you handicaps since you don't know what you're doing. And then I won. And then they got upset. And then I didn't get help after that.
Yeah.
So ever since then, like people often underestimate me when I go into game stores. And it's actually pretty saddening that happens. Like they assume that I don't know about games. They're like, why are you here? Are you trying to buy something for somebody else? Do you not know the rules to things? And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. You just have to treat me like anybody else because you can't make assumptions about me. And so it's saddening that this happens to me and it happens to other women I know who try to play board games, where people will underestimate them just because of how they look. So if for people watching this, like no matter who you are, if you're just like a person and there are other marginalized people who you're playing games with, don't look down on them. Don't undermine them. They are just as capable as anyone else. So welcome them to the hobby and don't assume anything.
And perhaps the flip side of that, if you feel like you have been in that position, don't give up. Like if you're in that story, you're like, no, I know exactly what I'm doing. I don't need your help. Or go in there like Victoria and crush that competition and win that tournament, right? And seek out the community. I mean, if you're watching this video, there's a very good chance that you're already somewhat integrated and you're looking for that. But maybe just a little reminder that there are folks out there that want to support you and that are part of your community that have been through similar things and are just as excited about games today and want to help you grow into your role, whether it's just playing games or making content or making games in the future. So I love that point, Victoria. I think we're running close to the end of our time, and I just thought that maybe we could wrap up, and I'd love to maybe hear from everybody. What is something that you, as you're looking forward, that you hope to see in tabletop gaming's continuing growth and evolution? What's something that you'd like to see from any aspect, whether it's from your perspective as a content creator or your perspective as a publisher and a designer? I'd love to kind of hear a little bit of your vision for the next 2 years or the next 5 years or 10 years, what have you. And feel free to just jump on in, whoever feels like starting. And we'll have that weird, awkward, like, oh no, you go. But we'll work it out here.
In the next 2 years, I want to see the continued golden age of board games. I honestly feel like, yes, we are in a golden age. I honestly feel like it's going to continue. And it's because of, the industry evolving and changing. Yes, it can be slow and it can be frustrating, but there are, as you can see here on this panel and just the things that we've talked about, change is here. Change is happening. And with that change, as it gets bigger, it's going to get better because more of us here are included in the process. And, now that we're here, we're going to, again, help get that helping hand. We're going to bring others with us. And it's everyone. It's going to get better and better. And we're going to see, we have a tea game now. We have a rap game. Who knows what's going to be out here in the next couple of years. I'm excited. It's not just going to be Vikings and zombies and stuff, right? We've got a ton of things we can make games about. I'm super excited about that. And I honestly think it's just going to keep getting bigger and bigger, folks. And I'm excited for it.
Yeah, Ruel, related to that, like different types of games. I ordered this game from
grabbing
Japan.
a game.
I love how
it's
we
like,
all have games on hand.
Yeah, it's like, so this game was from Japan. It's called Makaryoshka. And it's like a game where there are these giant macaroons and inside them there are like smaller macaroons.
Yes.
Yeah. And
Yes.
so it's like an abstract game about like eating smaller macaroons and larger. It's an area control abstract game.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
But it's just like related to what you said, more exciting themes like this. Oh my goodness.
Absolutely.
Yeah. If I was growing up, if they have this, I'd be like, yeah, I'm gonna buy every single game because this is awesome. But yeah, what I'm hoping to see in the future is just like thinking about where board games can go next, and like thinking about it from different perspectives, right? Like, for example, the game Nyctophobia was a game that Catherine Stipwell, I believe, created because she had a family member who was blind. So that game you play completely without vision, and that was something that is so interesting. Or if you think about, okay, a lot of games are about colonization, and don't have a lot of diversity. Then you have Spirit Island. It's a game about like literally like defending the island from colonization. And like that's super awesome. So just thinking about ways that you can make games from new perspectives for new audiences, and challenging the way that people think, it just brings so many fresh, cool ideas for games that we haven't seen before. The classics will always be fun, but we really need to push our industry forward so we can have more fun, exciting new types of games to play.
Yes.
Ella?
Yes.
Yes, I'm going to talk about it in terms of community management. I think I want to see more of conscious creation of safe spaces. And I've seen it in, say, PAX. They have a clear community guideline during conventions. And it shows up in different ways, in little ways, like they all have pronouns. Like in the Discord, everybody has their pronouns. So nobody is, gendered. So it's a conscious thing. And also those small things really matter, because I remember as a community, I send out emails to influencers, and the amount of queer people who are like, I appreciate that you have pronouns in your own signature. So those are conscious things that we can do, but also that, like, also because there's a lot of online harassment for minorities, and I appreciate not harsh but aggressive moderation, like creation of safe spaces, because I remember in TLN I appreciated that there was a group of moderators who would stay up at 3 a.m. just to make sure that somebody was not going to get harassed because there was something happening in online spaces. So I think that's very important. So one would think that that's something that everybody has, but it's not yet there. We still have steps to go, and so I want to see that more, like conscious creation of safe spaces.
I love that. And I think that we're seeing a little bit more of that. But to your point, we have a ways to go along that line.
Yes.
For me, and this is going to sound really perhaps serving in terms of the context of this panel, but I want to see more things like D4, where we are a tabletop focused event within a broader pop culture media context, right? Because so many people love board games, they just don't know it yet, because they don't know the breadth and the wealth and how much board games have evolved over the past 20 years from what they may have been exposed to with, Trivial Pursuit or Pictionary, which are fine games, but right, we've gone so far further down that path. And I am really excited that events like SDCC are starting to really recognize our kind of niche with tabletop games and trying to help bring it forward, because they know that their fans will love it. They just need to find it. And so I'm excited for that kind of cross industry, cross media recognition that I think is really exciting. There you go. Well, with that, we're going to have to wrap up. Thank you so much to my wonderful panelists. Let's just do a very quick round robin and remind people of who you are and maybe give a quick note on where they can find you. Let's go in reverse order this time. Victoria, we're going to start with you.
Yeah, sure. So what you said, just where people can find me?
Yeah, I mean, if they want to contact you or not, or if they want to follow you on social media, anything that you are comfortable sharing.
Okay, awesome.
Nothing.
All right.
Tell them where to find Gladius.
So you can find me on Twitter. My Twitter handle is Victoria Caña. My last name is spelled Cana. You can also find my game Gladius. There's information about it if you look up quartetgames.com, or if you look us up on Facebook or Twitter or anything. So yeah, that's how you can find us.
Ella?
So you can find me as Ella Loves Boardgame on Instagram, YouTube, but on Twitter, I'm Ella Loves PG, because you have to be short. But also I create content for the Dice Tower, so you can watch me there.
Ruel.
I'm Ruel Gaviola. Find me on all the socials at Ruel Gaviola. Follow me at the Good Time Society for the show Good Looking Kickstars. It comes out every 2 weeks with Becca Scott. And I am also the co-organizer of Tabletop Live Network. We have a bunch of Twitch channels that stream once a month, 24 hours straight. We'd love to have you join us. And by the way, I play games on my Twitch channel several times a week. Come on over at Ruel Gaviola. Back
And
to
you're
you,
super
Suzanne.
entertaining.
Thank you.
And I'm Suzanne
Lots of
Sheldon.
snacks.
Thank you so much for joining us on our D4. You are welcome at the gaming table panel. We really appreciate your attention and your care with us. And we hope that you have a wonderful time at the rest of the event. Until next year, have fun playing games. Bye, everyone.